Welcome to week 11 of 5225, 52 Weeks of Loving Movies. This week, we're talking about modern retellings of classic literature. Now, this one I came to find out is a subgenre that I apparently love a lot. And the reason I say that is because when I was looking for one to watch that I hadn't seen, because, I promised one I have never seen, a first time watch for each of these weeks, it was very difficult to find one I hadn't seen because I've seen a lot of them. I will also just kind of give a heads up by the nature of this subgenre. A lot of these are going to be by the same guy, and you'll see that as we go, or at least the original works were by the same guy, because that seems to be a lot of modern retellings are from that point of view. Also, a lot of modern retellings of classic literature are coming of age movies, which is a subgenre I really love, which is probably why I have seen a lot of them, because that's probably my favorite subgenre, that or like horror comedy or something like that. But it's probably my favorite subgenre is coming of age movies. So this was a very exciting journey for me to watch these movies. And as you can see from the thumbnail and from the description, I watched a lot of them. So I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible because I know that there's a lot of movies, and you aren't going to want to sit and listen to me talk about 9 movies at length. So I'm going to make this as short as possible. I'm probably not going to talk a lot about the source material on these, because although I have read or seen most of them as far as the originals, I haven't seen or read all of them. And I just want to talk about the movies, really. So that's my little disclaimer. So without any further ado, let's go to our first movie, which was 10 Things I Hate About You, a retelling of The Taming of the Shrew by William Shakespeare. Now, this movie came out in 1999, and it was a film that I loved when it came out, because I was in high school, and it was a high school movie, and it had a bunch of people that I recognized from other things, and some people that I recognized from when they were much younger or a little bit younger. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, he was in Angels in the Outfield when I was coming up. Also Third Rock from the Sun, which was a show I really loved with John Lithgow. Is a show that I loved. Never missed an episode of that. And Larissa Olink, who was in a show on Nickelodeon called The Secret World of Alex Mack, where she could, I don't remember, she had superpowers. I remember one of them, or the main one was she could turn into goo. I don't remember exactly the exact premise, but Secret Life, I think, of Alex Mack was a show I used to watch when I was younger as well. So there are a few of these people who I knew from my boyhood, but some of them were at the time new, like Heath Ledger, who I'm pretty sure I had not seen in anything before this. He would go on to become one of my favorite actors. But this was, I think, the first time I had actually ever seen him in a movie. That might not be true, but as far as when I'm thinking back on his filmography, I'm pretty sure this was the first time. So it's kind of hard to review this one because I've seen it so many times that I'm not sure if this is actually a really fucking rad movie or if this is just nostalgia. If you've read my Letterboxd review, I lean toward radness on this. I love it, and I'll always love it. It's just a movie that makes me feel good. Some of the story beats may not have aged the best, but I think when you're going off of something that's that old, Shakespeare, it's hard to look at it through a 2025 lens and expect everything to be exactly perfect for today. Especially, you're going from Shakespeare and then into the late 90s, when there's a lot that doesn't hold up from the late 90s that of course we know that. But I think that when you combine those two things, not everything's going to hold up. it's easy for me to overlook that because I just really, really love 10 Things I Hate About You. Um, I think that the unsung hero of this movie is Larry Miller as their father. I think he provides so much of the comedy, so much of the hilarity, so much of what you're looking for in this movie you get from Larry Miller and his scenes. I don't think I appreciated him enough when I was a teenager, but now having grown up, kind of watching a lot more of stuff that Larry Miller had done, and really being able to appreciate, especially now I'm a dad, so there is that, I guess, that also uh, bleeds into it. But I just being able to appreciate his comedy is something that I guess I had to age into a little bit because that dude is so funny in this movie. Another person that's in this movie that I didn't quite appreciate yet, but would learn to love is Allison Janney, who plays the guidance counselor. And I would not yet, I had not yet seen The West Wing. I had not yet fallen in love with C.J. Craig on The West Wing, and I was not yet a fan of Allison Janney when this came out. I am now, and I love her, and I have come to appreciate her a lot more uh, as the years have gone by. I still I still love a bunch of the other actors. I think David Krumholtz is hilarious. I've always really appreciated him, though. Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Heath Ledger are really great straight men in this movie. Um, Julia Stiles, the shrew of this film. What I love about her that I don't think I was able to really understand when I was a teenager, that I kind of understand now, is that her character, although she's kind of the foil a lot, and we kind of depend on her to, uh, we're trying to overcome her kind of personality. That is kind of the goal of the thing. Like, she never feels like she's being disingenuous. She never feels like it never feels like, oh, she's obviously we have to root against her, because it's easy to root for her because she's a very honest, straightforward character, which I really, really dig about this movie. But I said I wasn't going to take very long on any of these, and I'm not. So I'm going to leave 10 Things I Hate About You there. I love it. Tell me in the comments how you feel about 10 Things I Hate About You. And we're going to move on to our next movie, which is a movie I also grew up loving. And in fact, I had a huge, huge crush on the main character from this movie. I even had her poster on my wall when I was a teenager, and that is Clueless from 1995, which is a retelling of Emma by Jane Austen. So, as I mentioned before, I was in love with Lacey Silverstone when this movie came out. So, of course, I saw it in 1995, and I owned it, and I watched it a lot, and I had the poster on my wall, and I just was absolutely in love with her. So, this movie, I also probably have a very big bias for, because it's always been nothing but love for this movie, and I've always watched it fondly, and have a very soft spot in my heart for it. What's great is growing up and finding out that it wasn't just me, that this movie, that Amy Heckerling's Clueless, is considered a great coming of age movie, and just a great feminist piece, I guess. I think a lot of people feel that way. I know I have friends who do feel that way. Um, it's just it's a really fun and good movie. And if you need to know what the 90s felt like, watch this movie. Of course, these are all very affluent characters, very rich characters. It does not represent what it felt like in the 90s for me growing up, but the culture of the kids in the 90s, it very much captures that. Not the very rich, affluent lifestyle culture, but just how kids acted toward each other, how they talked to each other, how they how just what it felt like to go to high school in the 90s. And it's a very exaggerated version of that. So, I mean, it's not a one-to-one. It's not a perfect example of what it was like to go in the 90s, but it very much feels like it. If you watch it, it 100% feels like what it felt like in the 90s. Something that the internet has kind of taken and ran with in recent years is the relationship between Cher and Josh, her ex stepbrother. Because I know that it's just a lot of the conversation is around, oh wow, she got with her brother in the end, and yeah, it's number one, was her stepbrother, but not even her stepbrother anymore because their parents were long divorced, and I really like the way Cher's dad holds on to the relationship with Josh as someone who didn't have a dad, who had a dad who didn't really care about the relationship with me. Uh, it's really cool to see a father figure in a movie where he held on to that relationship even though he didn't really have to. I thought that was pretty cool. But that was just a little tangent. Back to the relationship between Cher and Josh is weird if you look at it from a certain angle. With that they have this familiar relationship, but it is based on Emma, and Emma does end up with the character who is close with his father, almost in a father-son, and with her father in a father-son way. So it makes sense for the modernization to do that. You can feel how you want about it. I don't think that's very weird. There's also the aspect that he is a college student and she is 16. And I think that just comes down to the era in which it was made. Today, I mean, well, I would say we wouldn't make that today, but a couple years ago there was a film that was nominated for Best Picture that had a similar, I think probably bigger age gap that we were fine with or that a lot of people were fine with, rather. I've been told that my issue with it is not something I need to concern myself with, so I'll just leave that alone. Licorice Pizza. I just think that they could have handled that a lot better. Anyway, I love PTA. That's just one that bugs me a little. But with this one, it doesn't bother me so much because the age gap is pretty small. It kind of feels like he is newly in college and she is toward the end of her high school career. Like, that age gap feels small, and due to the era that it's in, it was perfectly acceptable. So I think that it's fine, and I don't really judge it for that. But this is another one where it's going to be hard for me to really review it because I just love this movie, and I know that it's probably a lot of nostalgia, but I also think it's a pretty freaking rad movie. So with that said, I'm going to move on to my next film, which is a film that I watched, which I'd seen before. This was also a rewatch. But it's a film that I had watched for my friend Carly, who said, I hope you do She's the Man, which is a retelling of Twelfth Night by William Shakespeare, recurring character in our list here so far, William Shakespeare. But my friend Carly had hoped that I had watched that I would do this one because this is one that she loved, and it was the first, I believe she said it was the first Shakespeare thing that she had read and understood and really got, was the Twelfth Night. And so I think it's pretty cool that that this movie has that connection with someone regarding both the original and the modern retelling of it, that it can have that it bridges that gap. I think that's pretty cool. So I included it for you, Carly. Thank you for having me do this. But yeah, as I said, I'd seen this one before, and there's a lot that I really like for it. Like from it, a lot of it really held up for me. I think that Amanda Bynes was a very funny lady. I mean, she's still probably a funny lady. She's not in the limelight, and her life has taken some turns. But I do think that she's a very, very funny person. I think that Channing Tatum is a really great straight man jock character. I think he played that role really well. It wasn't the greatest acting performance I've ever seen, and this was the first thing I'd ever seen him in. I don't know if he'd been in other things, but this is the first thing that I had ever seen him in. And luckily, he had, or maybe I don't remember if this or Guide to Recognizing Your Saints came out first, but I know that I saw that Guide to Recognizing Your Saints made me feel like he was probably going to be a better actor than I thought he was, and then uh, he wasn't a lot of the time. I think I've come around on him now. I think that a lot of times he is pretty good, even though he's a really good comedic actor. And I'm sure that he's not bad and dramatic either. I'm not disparaging him in any way. I think I have come around on Channing Tatum a lot since then. But in this, his acting is fine. It's not the greatest, but I think that he does fill that role of the kind of meathead jock, teenage boy, kind of the homophobic tendencies with all that. All that felt like really true for the time. Sucks now as a queer man. I look at that and I'm like, see, this is why it took me so long to come out. But but it does represent the time. And when you're watching something like this, it's really nice, especially coming of age thing. It's like, yes, there are elements that should be universal, but there's also some things in a film that should set it in the time frame that it's made in, and that I think that is one of the things, regardless of how that has necessarily held up. But he's not like super homophobic. Like, he doesn't say, there are no slurs or anything like that. Just like the idea of just him being very uncomfortable around the idea of closeness with a man, that kind of stuff. It's played for good comedy, and it's thankfully outdated. But Amanda Bynes, let me go back to her for a second, because I think she's really funny. And when she's being Viola, is her name? Viola, I believe. She is very funny. Anytime she's doing that, she's very funny. When she's pretending to be Sebastian, she's just it doesn't work quite as well for me. It's not as funny because it's so unbelievable. And when the rest of it kind of feels a little more grounded, it kind of makes me feel like, gosh, this feels so bad. This ruse of her being a boy just feels incorrect. And I think it's her voice, the way that she does her voice, and the kind of a lot of her mannerisms just are not as funny to me as when she's being Viola, or when she is being Sebastian and slips into Viola. Like, that stuff is all really, really good. So that is like my main criticism of this movie, is that I don't believe both sides of this character all the time, which is probably for the best. It's probably the best that it doesn't feel real. But it's just, I wish that would have played for the comedy a little better for me. But overall, I do like this movie quite a bit. I enjoyed it. It was good. I'll say it's good. And I'm glad I rewatched it, because there were a lot of parts that really got me, that held up for me in a really real way. But I'm going to leave She's the Man for now, and we're going to move on to the next film, which is The Half of It, which is a retelling of Cyrano de Bergerac by Edmund Rostand. Excuse me. This is my favorite version of Cyrano de Bergerac. I'm pretty sure. There are a few that I really like. Roxanne from the 1980s, starring Steve Martin. I remember I watched that a lot as a kid, but it's been 30 years since I've seen it or more, and I don't really remember enough about it to be able to say if that's how I feel exactly about that. There's also The Truth About Cats and Dogs, which I used to watch in the 90s a lot, which I also very much enjoyed. Janine Garofalo and Uma Thurman. I enjoyed that movie as well. But that one's been like 20 years since I've seen it. So the half of it I have seen a few times in the last 5 years since it's come out. And it's a movie that I love. It's a movie that I really, really enjoy. I think that the three leads are really good. They hit the funny, they hit the dramatic perfectly as they should. They feel like actual teen characters, which I really like, which is not necessarily always true with all of these movies that we have discussed or will be discussing. I think they feel like real teen characters. I feel the attraction to each person, like I can recognize how each person is feeling about the attraction that they have toward another person. It's just a really good movie, and I'm not going to go too far into it because I do feel like it is an underseen movie. So if you've never seen it, it's on Netflix in the United States. Go watch it. It's a really good movie. I highly enjoy it. I definitely recommend it. And that's, I think, all that I'm going to say about that movie. I'm going to move on pretty quickly from this one because, again, it's pretty underseen, and I think people need to see it. So I don't want to go into too much detail on it, except just to say, if you've never seen it, watch it. If you have seen it, tell me in the comments how you feel about it because I really love this movie. The fifth movie I watched was my first time watch. As I mentioned, it took me a long time to figure out a movie from this like kind of subgenre that I had never seen. Um, and this one is Scotland, PA, which is a retelling of the tragedy of Macbeth by William Shakespeare. You can see who's the recurring author in this case. There's just a lot of Shakespeare stuff that is made into modern retellings, specifically a lot of coming of age movies. This one isn't a coming of age movie; it's about adults. But this is one that I hadn't seen. This is one that I had seen the cover of many times in the video store that I worked in. This one came out in 2001, which is right before I started working at the video store. And I worked at the video store for 8 years. I had always wanted to see it, but here's a funny thing. I got this movie and Gosford Park, which came out around the same time, confused. And I knew that Scotland, PA was based on Macbeth. And I would get it confused with Gosford Park. So for a long time, I thought Gosford Park was based on Macbeth until I actually saw it. And I was like, if this is based on Macbeth, it is loosely based on Macbeth. And it wasn't. It's not based on Macbeth. It's a good movie. If you haven't seen Gosford Park, I actually think I have a series, a theme one of these weeks about upstairs versus downstairs. That's a week I'm going to watch Gosford Park again. But if you haven't seen it, I recommend watching it. Prepare for that week. But for a long time, I thought I got these. I thought these were the same movie. And so I didn't actually watch Scotland, PA. Well, I've rectified that. Now I've seen it. Scotland, PA is not subtle. It is probably the least subtle of all of these movies in terms of telling you what it is based on. And that's saying a lot when you consider that some of the other movies on this list, like Easy A, directly reference the source material that they are retelling. And the thing, or Anyone But You, that has quotes from the play throughout the movie on like walls and stuff like that. There's a lot of these that directly reference the film or the classic piece that they are retelling. But this one is just so blatant with its allusions to Macbeth, because you've got the main characters, Joe and Pat Macbeth, and their friend Banquo is what they call him, Banquo from the thing. The detective in this movie, played by Christopher Walken, is Detective Macduff. There's just and it goes through this story fairly faithfully. I mean, it's not an exact adaptation. It's not like a faithful adaptation, but it goes through so many beats in this. It is not subtle at all about that it is based on Macbeth. And I think that's good. I think that's fine. I have zero problem with it being so blatantly about or based on Macbeth. It's just funny when I'm first watching it, because at first it starts like rolling my eyes. I'm like, come on, like this is they are really they are really laying it on with this with their retelling here. But as I kind of got into it, it started to feel less like they were uh, doing a cheap knockoff into that they were making their own movie, which I think is the big the big thing that kind of switched, because at first I was not enjoying it very much. And then as it kind of went along, I started to warm up with it. And then by the end, I was like, okay, I actually really did enjoy this film. I mean, it's not perfect. It's not great, I don't think, but it was very enjoyable. And Christopher Walken, who plays, as I mentioned, Detective Macduff, um, does all right. So if you haven't ever noticed this, I'm about to give you a fun little game that you can just play with yourself, because that's how I do it as well. It's not a competitive game. It's a little game you can play when you're watching Christopher Walken movies, and that is, does he dance in this movie? And the fact is that Christopher Walken loves dancing, um, and he tries to include dancing into every movie that he makes. He doesn't always, sometimes it's not appropriate, so you don't really get any dancing from him. Sometimes he's not, it doesn't make the cut. But a lot of times it'll be just a little small thing where just kind of in during his performance, he'll do cut a little jig or something like that. And this movie's no exception. He dances, and that's and I always love to see it. I love to see Christopher Walken dance, and he does in this movie. So yeah, Scotland, PA is pretty good. I enjoyed it. I'm going to recommend it. I think I'm not sure how well it will play with most people. I just ended up warming up to it, but you got to stick with it a little bit, because for me, it was not great in the first half, really, and then it kind of started to speed up a little bit for me. But that was Scotland, PA. I'm going to move on to the next one. I told you I'm trying to move fast through these. And that movie is Anyone But You, which is a retelling of Much Ado About Nothing by, say it with me, William Shakespeare. Anyone But You is one that I was interested in because of the two leads in it, Sydney Sweeney and Glenn Powell. And let me tell you, these two do so much heavy lifting in this movie. I like this movie a lot. I think that mid-tier rom-coms, we should have more of those. I'm so thankful for Crazy Rich Asians, which kind of brought back the traditional rom-com back into our space, because for a while there, I think they were just seen as a little bit too cheesy. They had to be elevated, as they say, or whatever, or a little bit more dramatic, or whatever. Like, we didn't really get the mid-tier rom-com the way we did in the 2000s and the 90s, and thankfully I think that trend they're coming back, which I definitely appreciate, because I unashamedly love those type of rom-coms. They're not always great, they're not always even good, but I always enjoy it once our two leads get together at the end, inevitably, of every rom-com. Well, not every. There are some that they don't, but in most rom-coms, when they get to the end, I am always so happy. And so yeah, I love a good rom-com. I wouldn't. Most of them are not going to be near my top favorite movies. Most of them I wouldn't even say are good. I just enjoy watching them a lot of the time. But Glenn Powell and Sydney Sweeney do a lot of heavy lifting in this movie. The chemistry between these two actors is palpable. You can feel it. It's so good. And here's the thing. These two could have chemistry with anyone, especially Glenn Powell. It's the thing that I've said about Glenn Powell. Glenn Powell could have chemistry with a tree. That dude is a movie star. And a lot of it is due to his enigmatic charm on the screen. And Sydney Sweeney also could have chemistry with almost anyone, I think. And she also oozes that charisma, maybe not to the degree that Glenn Powell does, but she does, and she's always a joy to watch on screen. And I think that combining these two was genius. And I think that they're both of them having a kind of tending toward good chemistry really helped this movie, because the writing isn't great. The story is even though it is based on Much Ado About Nothing, it's bare bones Much Ado About Nothing. It's a pretty common tale for the most part. And the jokes are good. They're fine. They're funny. I do like how they keep because this is one where they quotes from Shakespeare from the play actually like show up like on walls and on signs and stuff as it goes by. I actually didn't notice that the first time. I noticed it this time around. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. But I like that when anybody in the movie actually quotes the play, actually says something from Much Ado About Nothing, they're like, I just made that up. Isn't that crazy? I think it's a little funny running gag in the film. But yeah, Anyone But You is just a solid time. It's just a good time watching some hot people be hot with each other, and for a few good chuckles. I think it's good. I recommend it. We're going to move on to Easy A. From 2010. Now, my wife and I started dating in 2010, and we saw this on a date, one of our early dates, do the thing. And a thing that made this movie fun for the two of us is that we both were very Christian in our teenage years, and this deals with a lot of religious persecution, not of the religious people being persecuted, but people being persecuted by the religious people. So both of us recognized the people in this movie that were super religious and being all judgy and stuff. Like, we recognized them like we knew them, which was really fun for us, because I definitely know those people. And I've seen them in action, and I may have been one of those people at some point, not to the super judgy point, but to the point where I understood where they were coming from, which was a very interesting thing. And especially now, 15 years later, where I'm even more separated from that faith than I was in 2010. Even looking at it now, it almost is nostalgic, brings back these memories of when I was that person, which is fun and kind of scary, and makes me think a lot. But Easy A, we did see this on one of our early dates when we were first courting, and and we both really, really liked it. We thought it was very, very funny. We thought it had it was made in a really cool way. The acting in it we thought it was really, really good. I liked then, and I like now, and as I was revisiting it, I really liked the way the high school dynamic felt real. Now, it's definitely exaggerated for the movie, and it's not exactly like the way high school is, but there are things in it that are very true to high school, and things you actually probably don't see in movies a lot. Most of the time in movies, you see the person who hasn't had sex being the butt of jokes, or it acting like every person in high school is always sexually active and stuff like that. This one actually turned it around. And as someone who went to a very small town school in Oklahoma, there were 23 people in my graduating class. That's how small it was. The way that these characters acted felt probably the most like actual high school. And I know with Clueless, I said that it got the feeling of high school, which it did get the feeling of high school in the 90s. But this one actually felt like it understood high school, like it recognized high school in a way that most movies don't, which is that in movies, they often act like everyone's sexually active. If you're not, you're weird. This one showed it for how it actually goes sometimes, which is that if the rumor starts that you're sexually active, suddenly you get branded with this thing, like you're a slut, like you're all those things that you see on the cover of Easy A. I don't want to just say a bunch of rude things right now, but you get branded as this type of person, and it really can affect your reputation in a negative way, which is kind of counter to the way high schools are seen a lot in film. Usually, the person who is on the receiving end of that is is kind of a lower in social standing, kind of the nerd type character, or the dork, the freaks and geeks type character. And this is showing that a person of reasonable status, that people of reasonable status in this school, that they are viewing her in this way, and that she is a person of reasonable status who is being viewed in this way. It's very, very interesting, and I really, really like the way that it handled high school in a major way.
Editing Matt cutting in here, I just wanted to mention how, because I forgot to, I realized as I'm editing, to pay no attention to my hair. It's all messed up, and I didn't feel like fixing it for some reason before recording. The one thing I forgot to mention is that Stanley Tucci and Patricia Clarkson are probably my favorite parents in all of film. The way that they interact with their kids, they're very, very funny. They have their most of the laughs from this movie came from things that they did and said. Patricia Clarkson saying, "Well, any friend of Olive's is a friend of our daughter's." That kind of stuff. They are both very, very funny, and the type of parent I aspire to be. So I just wanted to throw that in because I forgot to mention it in there, and it's one of the things I love most about Easy A. So here we go, back to better haired Matt in the original edit.
But I'm going to leave it at that. Again, I really like Easy A. Have you seen Easy A? Do you like it? Look, talk to me in the comments. This is the one that references the Scarlet Letter a lot, because they're actually talking about the book in the movie, and they talk about the movie, the different movies that they've made, adaptations they made of it in the movie. So it is very much a presence in this thing. It's just also that the story is emulating that kind of narrative as well, which makes it the modern retelling, which is very interesting. But I'm going to move on from ECA, and I'm going to move on to the next film that I watched, which was Cruel Intentions from 1999, which is a retelling of, and I'm not going to say the French version of this because I am not sure I can, but it's a retelling of Dangerous Liaisons by French name. Pierre something something else. And I'm sorry if that's disrespectful. I'm looking at it and I don't think I can do it. I could probably do it if I tried, but I'm not going to. The time I took to talk about it, I probably could have just sounded it out and it would have been fine. Oh well. Anyway, Cruel Intentions. There's another one that came out when I was in high school, and it's not by Shakespeare, guys. Well, I guess the last one we talked about wasn't by Shakespeare either. Anyway, just ignore that. This one, Cruel Intentions, came out when I was in high school, and this one also handles sex in an interesting way, because this one kind of covers both ends of it, where it's like these people are very sexually active, and you don't really see the entire high school life because it basically takes place during the summer break. But it puts these high schoolers in a very sexual position, and like in a way that's definitely not my experience with high school, or really anybody I know that I've talked to about it. Like this hypersexual, very sexualized characters in this movie, but it also handles the other side, this purity side, where this girl is wanting to wait, and the purity culture in the 90s. Oh, don't even get me started on that. Like that, it definitely tapped into the zeitgeist of that one, with the purity culture thing, and that Easy A actually kind of tapped into it too, even though it was kind of past the point where that was really big, or maybe it not. I don't know. I wasn't in high school in 2010. Maybe it was still really big. I don't know. But the purity culture thing that was really big in the 90s and early 2000s, it kind of tackles that, but only one character in this movie is really going for that. Everyone else is like hypersexualized, which is a very interesting dynamic for a teen movie, which kind of sets it in this space in your mind, or at least in my mind, that kind of keeps it outside of realism and kind of allows me to look at it maybe a little bit more objectively, where I'm not looking for it to feel like real life. I'm looking at these people as the characters they are, which is nice because most of these characters are very difficult to like. They're deplorable. They're awful. I actually fear that as I was watching it this time, I had this fear that I'm like, oh my God, did this movie create a generation of manipulative sex pests, of men who took the wrong message from this movie and went out and tried to be like Sebastian was for most of this movie? Is his name Sebastian also? Or did I get the other name wrong? I think they're both named Sebastian. I think She's the Man and Cruel Intentions have characters named Sebastian. Excuse me. But I think that's probably true. Just because I think that there's a lot of, especially, I was in high school. I know how guys talked about certain things, and I know that it's probably true that this probably gave some guys some bad ideas. I'll also say that a film is not responsible for its audience misunderstanding. Fight Club is not responsible for most of the masculine men who idolize that movie not understanding what it's about. This movie, I don't think, is not responsible for people who took the wrong message from it, because the message is very clear in this film. It just kind of sucks that this might have contributed to an ongoing systemic issue within our society, an ongoing societal issue within our society, that this may have exacerbated that. Watching this movie now as compared to when I was in high school, and then when I watched it later in my 20s, watching it now was interesting because I'm watching it as a full-grown adult with kids, and I'm seeing this stuff. And as I said, it was able to let me kind of separate real life from this film. But it did also get me thinking every once in a while, like, oh God, I'm glad that kids aren't actually like this, or God, I hope kids aren't actually like this. It's like when I watch Euphoria, and I'm like, the first time I watched that, it scared the hell out of me as a parent. I'm like, are kids like this? And thankfully, I don't think most kids are. I don't think that that's how kidhood, teenhood works most of the time. I'm sure there are some places where it is like that. And I mean, I know that there are places where some of that is how it is. I don't think it's a big worry for me here in Oklahoma with my children. But this also had me thinking, like, gosh, I really hope that this is not how teens are today, because I've got kids, man. But this movie did not hold up for me as well as it has in the past, and not like a major way. Like, I still think it's great. I think it's a great film. And I think that that ultimately it does have a satisfying narrative that goes through it that I think I do enjoy. I will say that the acting, for the most part, does not hold up as well as I would like it to, particularly from Ryan Phillippe, who I know can do better than he does in this movie. It just does not hold up for me in the way that I want it to. I think Sarah Michelle Gellar is pretty good, and I think that Reese Witherspoon is all right as well. Sorry, last week I told you I had the flu. The thing about this current strain of flu that's going around, I guess, is that it lingers. And while I'm better, I'm still like feeling it, some of it. Anyway, so some of that stuff did not hold up quite as well for me. But by the end, I did find myself really enjoying the film. So I do think that that holds up well enough. I think that if you haven't seen it, you should see it, just kind of for the snapshot of time that it is, because it feels very much like it came from 1999. Plus, it ends with that great bittersweet symphony, uh, needle drop by the Verve. Oh, it's so good. I recommend this to people if you have not seen it. But I'm going to move on from this as well and talk about the last movie from my list, which is A Serious Man, which is a retelling of the Book of Job by whoever wrote that in the Bible. Uh, I was not going to include this. I didn't even consider this for a little while until Dylan, one of my friends, Dylan from the Dill Pickle Movie Network, go subscribe, watch some of his videos. They're good. Until he made a little joke about E.T. being a retelling of Christ's story and stuff like that. It was a funny little joke that he made. But I was like, oh man, no, E.T. is too close to the life of Christ for me to consider that a retelling. That's just an adaptation. So I was like, but I hadn't considered biblical allegories. And my favorite biblical allegory is A Serious Man by the Coen brothers. And so I just use this as an excuse to rewatch it. I'm a big Coen brothers fan. If you watch this series, you know that. I've talked about several Coen brothers movies. I'm not going to talk about how much I love the Coens anymore. Well, except for right now, I really love the Coens, and I really want to do rank their movies. Chadwick Webb over at Cinema Chad does a ranking show, and if you would like me to do a Coen Brothers ranking, go over to his channel, watch a video, like it, and then comment, "Hey, you need to do a Coen Brothers ranking with Matt." Say that on his because then we both benefit from that. Tell him we need to do it. Anyway, I love A Serious Man. I think it's a masterpiece. I think that it is one of Coen Brothers' best films. I think that it's definitely my favorite biblical allegory. It's a nice little dark comedy drama about human suffering. I know that it doesn't work for everybody. I worked at the video store when this one came out back in 2009, and I recommended this to a lot of people who came back and said, "Wow, I did not like that movie." So it's not for everybody. So take this with a grain of salt. I just think it's a really brilliant film. I think it's beautifully written, beautifully shot. Roger Deakins, greatest cinematographer of all time, in my opinion, shot this movie. It's very beautifully shot.
Editing Matt back, and my hair is just as bad, maybe worse. I just wanted to cut in because I forgot to mention about A Serious Man was nominated for Best Picture and Best Original Screenplay. Probably should have been adapted screenplay. But I also want to mention that Roger Deakins' cinematography definitely should have been recognized as well. Best Director, I think, really should have been considered also. But the main thing, the number one snub, in my opinion, is Michael Stuhlbarg for Best Supporting Actor, Best Actor. I have no problem with Jeff Bridges' win that year. That might have been my vote, although I'm not sure it would have been, because I think that Michael Stuhlbarg gives my second favorite performance that year. Christoph Waltz in Inglourious Basterds, my favorite performance of that year, one of my favorite of all time. Michael Stuhlbarg is my second favorite performance from that year. I think that he was overlooked, which is a shame. I think he had the potential to win. I think that he gave better performances than George Clooney, Colin Firth in A Single Man, Morgan Freeman in Invictus, Jeremy Renner in Hurt Locker. I think all four of those could have been replaced with Michael Stuhlbarg. That's all I wanted to mention there. I just forgot to mention it during the actual thing. Please forgive my hair. Here's better haired Matt back for the rest of the show.
It feels of the era that it is set in, which I believe some people say. I believe it doesn't say on screen, but the consensus is 1967. Although one person, I did read about how it mentions Abraxas by Santana, which came out in 1970. So either that is an anachronism or this is set in 1970. Either way, it's 3-year difference. Doesn't really matter. It feels like it's set in that era. Like it definitely feels that way. It doesn't feel like a period piece as much as it feels like it is from that era, which is really cool. It's got a lot of really funny, dark comedy things because it is about human suffering, and so in Coen Brothers fashion, they take that and add a little bit of comedy in there while also making you feel the correct emotions about it that you should feel about a film about human suffering. So if you've never seen this, I'm going to recommend it. But again, I it's been hit or miss on this one for me as far as if people will enjoy it. I think if you enjoy the Coen Brothers, you'll probably like this. I think if you enjoy movies about people who question their faith, or movies about people who are going through a lot and can't seem to catch a break, like that kind of film, I think you'll like it. I really love this movie, and it's funny because it's the Coen Brothers have said, this is not a direct adaptation of the Book of Job, which is obvious. I mean, none of these are. These are retellings, so they aren't like direct adaptations. Closest is going to be Scotland, PA. But the fact that they use specific imagery that is definitely from the Book of Job, the fact that it hits many of the same beats, many of the same themes that the Book of Job hits, the questioning of faith, the human, again, like I said, the human suffering, the all of that stuff. It definitely hits the same stuff, the same beats. Is definitely a retelling of Job. It's just not. It's not in the same way, because Job is kind of about like this wager between God and the devil to it will this man, this is a righteous man, will he stay faithful and stuff like that. It's not that. It just hits a lot of the same themes, a lot of the same notes, has a lot of the same imagery. So it works for me, and I don't care. I needed to watch this movie, and I'm glad I rewatched it, because I've seen it a few times, but I hadn't seen it in a while, and this gave me a really good excuse to rewatch it. But yeah, so it's really great. Tell me in the comments, have you seen A Serious Man? How did you feel about it? How do you feel about that ending? I'm not going to talk about the ending, but I really love the ending. I know a lot of people don't really get the ending, and I'd like to hear how some people feel about it. So talk to me in the comments about that. Let's talk about next week. So next week, we are going to be covering French cinema. I'm pretty much going to try to stick to things from France, but I might watch some things that are in French that are not in France, because I know there are other countries that do speak French, but I am going to try to keep this French cinema as in from France, but we'll see what happens. But talk to me in the comments. What are some French films that you think I should see? There are a few that I'm definitely going to watch. There's some masterpieces in there that I absolutely love. There's some that I haven't seen in a long time that I can't wait to revisit. And I know that there's going to be some that I've never seen that I'm going to be watching for the first time, and I'm very excited about that. But tell me, what are some French movies that you love that I should watch? And what do you think of these modern retellings of classic movies? Have you seen them? Which ones have you seen? Did you like them? Which ones haven't you seen? Or are you going to watch them now that I've talked about them? Talk to me in the comments. Thanks.